So the first lesson that we're going to cover is learning about the intervals of the major scale. And to start off, first of all, an interval is two notes in music that are a particular distance apart. For example, we have the note C and the note G. And the reason intervals are useful is because they always look the same on a piece of music when you're reading them. They're always the same distance apart on the music. And they also always have the same sound. For instance, C and G is what you call a perfect fifth, and it sounds like the beginning of Star Wars. It also sounds like the beginning of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And it has a particular sound when you play it together as well, a very peaceful sound. So intervals are useful because we want to memorize them for the sake of our reading and for the sake of our ear and developing that, and to be able to memorize kind of how scales work and how scales are built and how chords are built. So we're going to look at the intervals of the major scale and break that down a little bit. So we start with C to D, and that's called a major second, and they call it a second because C is the first letter and D is the second letter. And you'll also notice that there's a D flat in between them. So the distance between C and D is what they call a whole step, which is two half steps. And a half step is if I go from any note to the very next note. But then if I do another half step, I get a whole, because two halves make a whole. So C to D is a whole step rather, or a major second. C, D. And anytime you play two letters that are one letter apart from each other, like D and E, they call that a second. Now D and E is also a major second because we have the E flat in between. But E and F is what they would call a minor second, or a half step, and that's because there's nothing in between them. E goes right to F. So we have major seconds, or whole steps, and then we have minor seconds. And here is also a minor second from B to C. So we got major second, C to D. And it also happens to be the 1 and the 2, or the first and second note of the scale. And then we continue on, we have major third, which is C and E. This is now two whole steps, or four half steps. If you notice, you have a whole step from C to D and a whole step from D to E. So it's two whole steps together. That is a major third. The perfect fourth is from C to F. The perfect fifth is from C to G. From C to A, we have a major sixth. From C to B, we have a major seventh. And from C to C, we have the octave. So again, major second, major third, major fourth, or perfect fourth rather, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and octave. Those are the intervals of the major scale.